One night while I was on shift, a middle-aged woman came in complaining of strange discharge and pain. After a short conversation, she admitted that she had been unable to get something out of herself for several weeks. When I began examining her, I was shocked. It was a small metal pan. She had somehow inserted it and was unable to get it out. When I asked her why she hadn't sought help earlier, she calmly replied, "I thought it would somehow come out on its own." The nurse and I performed an emergency operation to remove the pan. I still can't understand how she even thought of doing it.
Creative jewelry. I work in the medical field, and at one of the conferences, I heard a simply terrifying story from a gynecologist. He was telling about a woman who came with unusual complaints, itching and pain in the intimate area. When he began to examine her, he discovered that her entire vagina was covered in glitter. Bright, multicolored glitter that settled literally on every fold. The woman admitted that before a date with a guy, she decided to decorate herself to impress. She bought a set of decorative glitter and used body glue to attach them. "I wanted everything to look beautiful, like at a New Year's party," she said sheepishly. But what began as an innocent and creative idea quickly turned into a nightmare. The glue she used was not intended for sensitive skin, and the glitter itself began to dig into the mucous membrane, causing microtrauma. Soon after the decoration began, severe itching, burning, and pain began. But instead of going to the doctor right away, she waited a few days, hoping that everything would go away on its own. During this time, the glue began to mix with the discharge, turning into a sticky mass, which not only increased irritation, but also did not allow the glitter to simply wash away. When the gynecologist began to clean the area, the process turned out to be much more difficult and painful than expected. The glitter stuck tightly to the skin and mucous membrane, so that it had to be removed literally one particle at a time. This took several visits, and each time the woman left with a new list of medications and instructions on how to care for irritated skin. The doctor noted that this was one of the most unusual and shimmering cases in his entire practice. My sister is a gynecologist, and she once told me about a strange case that simply amazed her. A woman came to the office complaining of pain and swelling. When the nurse began the examination, she discovered that a condom was stuck inside the patient, but this was no ordinary case. The condom was filled not with sperm, but with small candies like M&Ms. The patient explained that she and her husband decided to add fun to their intimate life, but did not take into account that the candies could cause irritation. The nurse had to carefully remove everything, and the woman left with a lesson. Not all experiments are suitable for such use.
Usually, such cases are not uncommon, although most patients quickly detect the problem. But this case was simply unique and left me in shock for several days. That day, a woman in her mid-30s came to me, complaining of an unpleasant odor emanating from her body. She looked neat, clearly well-groomed, but, according to her, despite all her efforts, the smell simply did not go away. She tried everything, changed hygiene products, took a shower several times a day, even switched to a completely different diet, thinking that perhaps the cause lies in nutrition. But all in vain, and at some point, the smell became so unbearable that she decided to see a doctor. I began the examination, and after a few seconds, the smell became so sharp and disgusting that I had to step back for a moment and inhale deeply through my mouth so as not to choke. Even for a person who regularly encounters various unpleasant cases, this was too much. I grabbed my gloves and started examining her, quickly realizing that the problem was clearly gynecological. As I continued examining her, I noticed something unusual. There was a tampon inside, but not a regular fresh tampon. This was an old, rotting lump of tissue that had been inside for months. When I pulled it out, the smell just hit me. At that moment, I thought, how could I not have noticed this before? I once had a patient come to see me with some strange expectations for her visit. She asked me how to stop her periods. I explained that there were different contraceptive options, but she was not satisfied. Then she said, "But I need something more radical to get rid of it forever. Can you make me not have a uterus at all? I was completely confused when she continued to insist on an absolute solution. I politely explained that it was not that simple and that she needed to think about the consequences.
When the patient came to see me, I did not expect to encounter such an unusual situation. She was in her 40s, and at first glance she looked quite healthy. But on closer inspection, it became clear that she was suffering from severe irritation and itching. I began asking the standard questions about her health, lifestyle, and possible causes of her symptoms. When I asked her about recent changes in hygiene or health, she seemed embarrassed. At one point, she began to awkwardly justify herself and admitted that she had been undergoing treatment. My interest was piqued, and I asked her to elaborate. Then she said something I could not expect. Someone advised me to eat sugar. They said it could help get rid of the infection. I was stunned. Sugar? How could you come up with such a thing? I tried to remain calm and find out how exactly she used this method. It turned out that she had started taking sugar internally, thinking that it would help restore the balance of microflora and eliminate the symptoms that had been bothering her for several weeks. I explained to her that sugar is a great breeding ground for yeast, and this could lead to her developing a serious yeast infection. We discussed the importance of seeking medical help when symptoms appear, rather than relying on unverified advice. Eventually, after an examination and tests, we determined that the infection was advanced and required long-term and comprehensive treatment. I prescribed her antifungal medications and advised her to see a gynecologist for further monitoring of the condition. The woman was shocked when she learned about the consequences of her treatment. She admitted that she was very worried about her situation but did not know what to do and decided to try alternative methods that she had heard about from friends. I worked in a clinic where women often came after visiting beauty salons. One day, a patient came to me complaining of itching and burning. It turned out that she had done intimate hair removal and did not expect that she would have such a reaction to wax. But the worst thing was when she admitted that after the procedure, she decided to show off to her boyfriend and did not bother to remove the wax residue. We both laughed at the situation, but of course I advised her to be more careful in the future. Hello, Reddit. I never thought I'd share this story, but here I am, hoping it helps someone. My name is Jane, and I'm 24 years old. I was born with a rare condition known as a double uterus, and this is how I found out. It all started when I was 18. I always felt like something was wrong, but no one could help me. My periods were pretty weird. Sometimes they were really heavy, sometimes they weren't. I also had constant severe pain in my lower abdomen that was confusing me. I finally decided to see a gynecologist. After a series of tests and an ultrasound, the doctor told me that I had 2 uteruses. I was in complete shock. He explained that this is not uncommon, and many women with this condition don't even know it. I had a lot of questions. How will this affect my fertility? Can I get pregnant? He reassured me by saying that many women with double uteruses have children successfully. But I was still scared. I couldn't imagine what it would be like to live with it and what complications might arise.
I always thought I had a lot of patience, but one 57-year-old patient tested my limits. She came to the consultation with obvious menopause effects, but refused to believe that it was time to talk about it. Instead, she decided that the best way to replace it was to restore her youth with the help of strange recipes and implementation. When I asked her about her approach, she proudly announced that she took some exotic mixtures that she made herself. I asked her to show me one of them, and she pulled out a bottle of green liquid that looked like a mixture of juice and something suspicious. I tried to be tactful, but the fact that she believed that this would help her regain her youth was too absurd. A friend of mine has a gynecologist who often shares funny yet disgusting stories from her practice. One time, he told a story about a woman who came in with an inflammation caused by using cheese as a lubricant. Yes, you heard that right. The woman assured the gynecologist that it was a natural and delicious option, but as you can imagine, it not only caused an infection, but also had some pretty nasty consequences. When the gynecologist explained to her that such behavior could lead to serious health problems, She couldn't believe that her recipe didn't work. The story became a hit among her friends, and everyone laughed at how she simply didn't understand what a bad choice was.